The first of our Family Circle Cup tennis questions that I have is from Tony in Mount Pleasant. He asks, what kinds of injuries do you see among professional tennis players? Okay, Tony, that's a great question, and this will be the 6th year that I will be serving as the chief tournament physician for the Family Circle Cup. And over the years, I've seen a number of injuries. Now, fortunately, most of them aren't that bad, but there's really two main categories of injuries that we talk about when we talk about tennis injuries. The first category is the acute injury or the traumatic event. Let's face it, injuries can and they do happen in all sports. Now, tennis isn't a contact or collision sport like, say, football or soccer, but these injuries do happen. Remember Vera Zvonareva 3 years ago, Caroline Wozniacki 2 years ago. Those injuries, no matter how great, how good a physical condition these players are in, they can get hurt with today's power and speed in the game and the sliding on the green clay and the changing directions and lunging for balls. It doesn't matter how good a condition they're in, these players can get hurt. The other category of injuries to remember are the overuse injuries. This is the pain and the inflammation of joints and muscles and tendons and ligaments, really based on using those body parts too much. You have to remember, tennis is a repetitive nature sport. It's the same motion over and over again. And you have to remember as well, these girls, they play for hours and they practice for hours every day, day after day and weeks on end. Really for most of the year, they only get about 6 to 8 weeks a year off. So again, doesn't really matter their physical condition. Even the top 10 players in the world, not only are they at risk for the acute traumatic injuries, but overuse injuries as well. For a week every April, this stadium, the Family Circle Tennis Center Stadium, is filled with thousands of fans enjoying afternoons of incredible tennis. But those long afternoons, very frequently, unlike an overcast day like today, involve a lot of bright sunshine. Now, fans can protect themselves from the sun. Pro athletes, pro tennis players, and really all athletes often either don't know the risks of sun exposure or they ignore advice to keep themselves safe. There are 3 main mechanisms to protect yourself from excessive sun exposure: avoiding the sun, covering up the body, and sunscreen. All of those can be more challenging in athletes, but we can still do what we can to keep ourselves safe. As for avoiding the sun, these players have no control over what time of day their matches are scheduled, but they can schedule their practices and their outdoor media events at times when the sun isn't as bright, isn't as intense, such as early in the morning or late afternoon and early evening. And really all athletes can train in periods where the sun isn't as intense. As for covering up the body, that can be difficult in matches and competition as well. But when you look at practices and other outdoor activities, you can do those things where you cover up your skin with long sleeve t-shirts or jackets and wearing hats or sunglasses. Now, even in games and tournaments and other competition, companies make clothes now that are lighter weight fabrics that are breathable, so they can still cover your body and provide ultraviolet protection, but still maybe you don't get as hot as you would otherwise. And lastly, sunscreen. And I've heard so many athletes talk about why they don't like to wear sunscreen. It gets in their eyes, it interferes with their ability to sweat, and they feel hotter in it. And I understand that, but companies now make sunscreens that are waterproof, that are less likely to run and less likely to get in their eyes. And with all the problems with avoiding the sun and covering up their body, sunscreen can be actually the first line of defense for athletes. So if we remember all 3 mechanisms, avoiding the sun, covering the body, and sunscreen, all athletes, pro to little league, kids to adults, we can all keep ourselves safe and protect ourselves. Take a couple of minutes to talk to parents out there about ways that they can get their kids more active. It's been estimated that the average child in the United States watches television 3 hours a day. And if you add in all screen media, computers and the internet and video games, the average child watches 5 hours of total screen time. And that's probably one of the main reasons that childhood obesity has tripled in this country in the last 30 years. And some of the dangers, the health effects of childhood obesity are quite frightening, honestly. Cardiovascular problems, high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, high cholesterol, bone and joint problems, sleep apnea, poor self-esteem, and other social and psychological effects. They're all very frightening. So what can parents do to get their kids more active and hopefully keep them from becoming obese themselves? And I want to suggest 6 ideas for you. First, obviously, is to limit screen time. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that kids get no more than 1 to 2 hours a day of all screen media, computers, TV, and and video games. Second, think of exercise outside of sports. Not all kids like playing competitive or team sports, but they may like hiking or rock climbing or swimming. Number three, invite their friends. Kids like to hang out with their friends, so let them bring a friend along. Let them go on a bike ride together, or go to the park, or go to the pool with one of their friends and have more fun. Number four, make it part of a routine. If kids come to expect that certain days and certain times are family fitness times, they're more likely to do it. For instance, make Sunday afternoons a family time to go on a bike ride together, or go to the park together, or take a walk together. If kids get used to every Sunday being a fitness day, it will become habit and it will become fun. Number five, exercise yourself. Lead by example. Kids emulate the behaviors they see. If you come home from work and sit on the couch in front of the TV and open a bag of chips or grab a slice of pizza, kids will eventually start repeating those behaviors. Lead by example and practice what you preach. And sixth, and probably most importantly, have fun. Start small, short activities, a little bit at a time, a couple every week and then a couple every day. Do them with your kids, make them fun, make it a better family experience, and ultimately you could have a very positive impact on the short and long-term health of your children.